I'm John Quigley, President and CEO of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry. For 100 years and counting, we've promoted an environment that creates success for local businesses and our community. Nearly 600 members strong, we are the voice of business in Elmhurst at all levels of government and a liaison to our residents, consumers, and tourists.
Since 1982.
1981.
1993.
1948.
Since 1955.
1892.
1991.
Since 1986.
1871. We're here to help our customers' lives go right. We put our customers and community first. And innovation and relocation for 2 generations.
Serving our community more than just great meals.
We create innovation in glass and metals.
We permanently solve your IRS problems.
4 generations of family dedication, forever invested in you.
We keep families rolling safely down the road.
For generations, we've helped students reach their full potential.
4 generations of serving the best Bohemian cuisine.
Make that 5.
So make today the day that you become a valued addition to our award-winning chamber, whether as a new member or via reactivation. Contact our office by phone at 630-834-6060 or email info@elmhurstchamber.org to learn about what's in it for you. Be a part of our next 100 years.
When you accept leadership at any level and for any type of organization, be it business, government, education, healthcare, nonprofit, you become accountable and associated with your organization. And at the local level, that association becomes highly personal and highly interactive. After all, at the local level, your constituencies may be encountered anywhere at any time. In the council chambers, at the grocery store, at any event in the city, perhaps just walking down the street. Local leadership is fulfilling, challenging, and ever-changing, and we will hear several viewpoints on this during our time together this morning. No matter who you are or where you are, you live your life locally. So to begin, let me introduce you to your host this morning, President and CEO of the Community Bank of Elmhurst, Rich Reichert.
Thank you. First of all, on behalf of the employees and the directors of Community Bank of Elmhurst, welcome. Elmhurst is a great community, and there are many reasons for that. Some might say it's location, 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 and that's part of it, but it's really the people that make Elmhurst different. It's our elected officials, it's the hired professionals that those elected officials go out and find, and it's the great volunteer spirit that we have in our community. And many of the folks that make this community what it is are here in the audience today, and those that aren't, I'm sure will be watching this program. The past year has been a very significant one for Community Bank of Elmhurst. In May of 1993, two men, George Hammersmith Sr. and William C. Gooch Jr., got together and decided to start this great bank. So it started in 1993. We celebrated our 25th anniversary this past year, which is a great milestone. We also celebrated that with a new garden that we put out behind the bank, the Darrell Whistler Garden, in honor of a friend of many of us in this room, Darrell Whistler, who passed a year and a half ago. This year was also significant for the bank because one of our co-founders, Bill Gooch, retired. And I will be forever grateful to Bill for that day back in 1992 when he called me and asked me to become a part of this great institution and help get it started. And I personally am excited to work with our new chairman, George Hammersmith Jr., who couldn't be with us today. He lives out of town and comes in once a month for our board meetings. We have some exciting news. We're going to be opening a business center for our commercial customers here at Community Bank. It will be right off of this community room, and it will be a place that they can come and work if they have a home office, if they just want to get away from their regular office, kind of like a co-working space on a small scale. There will also be a conference room that they can reserve for their use several times a month, and that'll be located at our other Elmhurst branch in the city center. It will be a little bit unique in that only our customers can use it. It will help our customers get to know us a little bit better and help us to get to know them. We'll provide a lot of resources for them, including copying and printing. One other announcement that I want to make is I sit on the City and College Commission, and on March 1st at Elmhurst College, the college will be hosting a conference, a half-day conference in the morning titled The ABCs of Gens Y and Gen Z. And many of you refer to that group collectively as millennials. Technically, it's just Gen Y. And there are differences between those two generations. Most of us in this room are not Gen Y and Gen Z, although there are a few. This conference is meant for us to better understand those generations and for those generations to better understand us. How can we be better employers? And maybe how can they meet us halfway? How can they market to us? How can we market to them? So that's going to be a great event. There'll be no cost. The Chamber is a co-sponsor of that event, and you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks. A few thank yous. Obviously, the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce, John Quigley and his staff, thank you for letting us host this. It's been about 20 years. I'm not exactly sure how many years it's been, but it's been about 20. Thank you to Comcast. Thank you to Fresh Start Cafe for the food. Thank you to Mayor Morley. I think he probably is crying a few tears this morning after his beloved Bama lost last night. They didn't just lose. They were pretty much smacked down.
Roll Tide!
I want to also thank our police officers and firefighters for all you do for our community. And lastly, I want to thank the employees of Community Bank of Elmhurst. You make this the great bank that it is. Thank you all very much.
behalf of all the baby boomers in the room, I thank you for that, Rich. That conference should be just absolutely fabulous. At the state of our city, we also annually learn about the state of our chamber. And to do so today, please welcome, in his 20th year as chamber president and CEO, John Quigley.
We had Gen X, Gen Y, and then, like the rest of us, Gens, where we all doze off occasionally. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us for our State of Our City mayoral address. My update on the state of our chamber ranks the year of 2018 as the most significant in the 100 years since some 60 prominent businessmen and residents gathered in H.O. Stevens' home to create what was then the Elmhurst Boosters Club. ECCI's year-long centennial celebration will officially conclude with our Chamber's 100th annual awards gala at the Drake Oakbrook Hotel on January 25. If you haven't already registered, please do so today, and bring your friends to the party too. Event information, including our list of honorees, is at each table. But I want to publicly recognize our award winners, including Civic Hall of Fame inductee Jeannie Urich, who I've worked with for years through Elmhurst, Our Kind of Town, and she's also a noted author. Ambassador Year Betsy Hanisch, joining a group of only 3 ambassadors to win the award for a third time. Chairman's Award recipient Lori Murray of Inland Bank, and the Elmhurst Independent as the A.J. Tachi Taronis Business of the Year for 2018. Give them a nice round of applause, please. Also, the awards gala will feature the debut of our new 2-minute promotional video produced in partnership with Elmhurst Suburban Life and Shaw Media. Immediately after this event, a group of us are shooting back to the office to refilm the end of that video. We're going to do a special flag raising outside our office, and you're all welcome to come if you want to be in a crowd shot. So if you got time, shoot by the office 10 to 10:30. We're going to get that done this morning. Tickets for our Centennial Celebration Split the Pot raffle, which is just shy of $4,000 right now, are still available today outside when you leave or online through our website, and the winner will be named at the awards gala. At our 98th annual awards gala, we first unveiled plans for staging a once-in-a-lifetime $250,000 capital campaign. And it started with Ralph Pachanio's $100,000 endowment gift to our Elmhurst College Student Internship Fund and my Second Century Fund pledge of $25,000. To date, we are at 88% of goal with more than $220,000 in gifts and pledges raised. Somebody just handed me a donation this morning. Thank you. And I am delighted to report that both the $150,000 Ralph P. Pachanio Student Internship Fund at Elmhurst College and the $50,000 educational component as part of the $100,000 Second Century Fund have both already exceeded goals. Give a nice round of applause to that. Also within that Second Century Fund, fundraising to build a Civic Hall of Fame public memorial is at 22% of its $50,000 goal, and we will continue to fundraise for the next couple of years to coordinate and match the construction time for the new $18 million Metro train station in downtown Elmhurst, where that public memorial will be built as part of that new construction. I'm sure the mayor will have a lot more to say on that development. While we have exceeded goal on 2 of the 3 components, your financial support for any and all of these capital campaign causes is still encouraged and welcomed. Also this year, we created a unique board game, Elmhurstopoly. And we sold out the 74 sponsorship opportunities in only 2 weeks. Most chambers need 3 to 4 months to sell it out, but this is how good our chamber was. And then I had to say no to 40 more businesses and organizations that wanted to be part of this project. And to date, out of a production run of 1,000 games, nearly 500 have been sold, shared with sponsors, or donated in only 6 months on the market. You can buy these online at retail outlets. You can even go downstairs and buy it right here at Community Bank of Elmhurst. In late 2018, our board of directors, with input from both the membership, and Ways and Means committees, adopted a 3-tiered annual investment schedule plus 2 sponsorships to replace our long-used employee-based dues structure. And during the fourth quarter of 2018, a dozen new members joined under that new tiered dues. Another member reactivated under that, and several of our existing members have already opted to shift over to tiered dues, as will be their choice at any time during this next year. And despite an unanticipated 3-month gap in our staffing, chamber membership grew in 11 of 12 months in 2018, and we've grown in 13 of the past 14 months. During Chamber of Commerce Month last September, our board, with input from the Governmental Affairs Committee, endorsed Elmhurst Community Unit School District's $168.5 million referendum that was on the November 6th midterm election ballot. And I'm happy to say that referendum passed with better than 60% of the vote, and we were the first major and only business organization to put our endorsement on that referendum. Go ahead and give that a nice round of applause. And we accomplished all this while both understaffed and shorthanded. Kim Kurzek joined us as our office manager in early July, and Mariela Mastromoro took over as Director of Member Services in mid-October. So if you haven't met them, they're roaming around, say hi, welcome them on board. Our 2019 Elmhurst Community Directory, published in partnership with Shaw Media, will be every door direct mail delivered to some 19,000 Elmhurst residences, businesses, and P.O. boxes starting the week of January 15. During my chamber tenure, first representing Elmhurst College, my beloved alma mater, and now for 2 decades as president and CEO, member advocacy at every level of government has become an integral component of our mission to promote an environment that creates success for local businesses and our community. While actively engaged in processes relating to economic development policies and business-relevant legislative issues, we have opposed taxes and regulations that burden businesses and supported fiscally responsible strategies for business investment and job growth. Here in Elmhurst, we have supported an array of economic development initiatives that, in the long run, have proven beneficial to residents, consumers, visitors, tourists, businesses, and our municipality. And we will continue to endorse the city's use of tax increment financing districts, public-private partnerships, retail sales tax abatements, and business development grants, all of those as economic development tools. As the state moves forward in this year, you can expect 2 big things on their budget. One will be the massive expansion of gaming across the state of Illinois on all levels, from video gaming up to casinos and gambling boats as well. And the other will be the likelihood that minimum wage, push to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, will come into play once again. As we have done in the past, we have been supportive of things that raise revenue, including gaming, and we have been unsupportive of things that we think will hurt businesses, and we think minimum wage hike will do that. Minimum wage was designed in 1935 by FDR as a way for women and children to get paid a decent wage while they were working, and also for unskilled workers to gain skills before going out and finding a job that provided a livable wage. We are all in favor of people earning a livable wage, and you do that by increasing business and production and creating jobs that provide those livable wages. Finally, I want to acknowledge all of you here today and the hundreds of other members whose loyal support and steadfast commitment has earned our chamber the respect of government, residents, and peers. and I thank you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the 2019 Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce and Industry from Edward Jones Investments. Would you welcome Kevin Cost? Kevin?
Good morning, everyone. I will have to chat with Rich a little bit later to find out about that Gen X and Y event. I need to learn a lot more about those young folks that are out there. John also said that we would split about 20 minutes between me and him, so we got about 1 minute left for us to keep on track. Just a couple of things from the board. Again, I am the chairman of the board this year. I personally wanted to thank very much Ken Bartels for leading us in our centennial year. If we could give him a nice round of applause. Any of us that know Ken know that he's probably the best one that could have possibly led us in that year. And when he was approached to take over for charity as the chairman for the centennial year, he asked if I would be willing to follow him up in the ranks. I knew ahead of time that it was going to be a tough task to fill his shoes, but fortunately I got pretty big feet. I also wanted to make absolutely certain that I think my board, a lot of them are at this table, and I know that there are some strewn out throughout as well. This year we've had some pretty impactful board members that have finished their terms, and some new exciting chairman or board members that have been able to join us as well. This past year, there's been a lot of things that we have put down, laid the groundwork to make sure that we have an incredible next 100 years, and now it's really time for us to make sure that we're implementing them and pushing that forward. So again, thank you all so much. I told you I was going to keep it pretty short. I appreciate all your time and your efforts and your continued support of the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, John. John and I don't have that issue. And thank you, John and Kevin. Our featured presenter this morning understands local leadership and practices it very well. He leads our city along with an outstanding city council and an outstanding staff. For his State of the City remarks, please recognize the Honorable Steve Morley, Mayor of Elmhurst.
I think this is my last year without these. The print keeps getting bigger. Well, it's certainly my pleasure to be here. And I want to thank the Elmhurst Chamber of Commerce, John Quigley and his staff, and I also want to thank the Elmhurst Community Bank, Rich Reichert, George Hammersmith, and all involved in making this possible, giving me an opportunity to bring all of you up to speed on some of the highlights from 2018 and looking forward to the future, what we can expect this year. One thing I do want to mention to Rich Reichert is, much like the city of Elmhurst, if you plan well, you really can pivot in almost any situation. So I'm happy to report that even though Alabama lost last night, I kid you not, I'm flying on Thursday to Clemson with my daughter, who's a senior in high school, as it's one of her top 2 schools to go to. So we could have that covered, so it wasn't a complete loss last night, Rich, but I appreciate your concern. Just to give an idea of how far we've come, I thought I'd go back just a little bit in history. You may or may not know, but we are at the name Elmhurst for our city at the end of this year will be 150 years old. We were a settlement in 1830. 1842 is when Jerry Bates opened the Hill Cottage Tavern, which still exists here in Elmhurst, just south of St. Charles on York Street. We really hit the big time in 1845 and named our settlement Cottage Hill when we got a post office. Shortly thereafter, a railroad came to town in 1849. By 1868, Cottage Hill was booming so much it was being confused with other towns of the same name. So the elders got together and they determined that we should name it Elmhurst due to the amount of elm trees in town, and Hurst which is the German word for forest, in a nod to the German settlers that were there. It was such a unanimous decision that they changed it back to Cottage Hill the next year. But not to be undone, the elders did prevail, and in 1870 we became Elmhurst. Flash forward 150 years, and here we are. We're a town that has 291 full-time employees, 200 part-time employees, 18 boards and commissions with well over 100 volunteers, 17 elected officials, in addition to another 40 volunteers between the Art Museum and between the History Museum and the Elmhurst Public Library. All told, we have over 650 people who work hard to make Elmhurst the great town that it is. It's to all of those people and the residents of Elmhurst, I want to thank you for your hard work. Now, it's important to note what I'm going to present today is just a highlight. It's barely scratching the surface of what's going on in this great town. I would encourage all of you to go online. The amount of information that's available about this town and the activities that are going on in this town are literally thousands and thousands of documents. Please go on and learn more about your town to our website. Pay attention to, you might learn a thing or two, maybe some surprises, announcements before the end of this speech. Well, 2018 was a very good year for Elmhurst and its residents. We continued, as we always do, with our planning, with the execution of our planning, and with the development of our city. Without planning and execution, we could not develop our budgets, we could not anticipate or grow our revenues, and without revenues, we cannot provide the services that the residents and the businesses of Elmhurst expect and deserve. Now, one thing I can tell you I've learned in my 12 years as an elected official is that urban development is slow. The planning of developing your town is a slow and tedious process. It requires patience, flexibility, a little bit of vision, and a little bit of luck. But I can tell you this, if you don't have a plan, you'll never get to where you want to be. Anything that happens in Elmhurst isn't an accident. If we're not planning, we're replanning, and we're reviewing the current plans that we have, but then we're also applying those plans and executing them. Finances in the city of Elmhurst are as strong as they've been in 2 decades. Our finance department received the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award for the 12th year in a row, and also received the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the 29th year in a row. For the 5th year in a row, we maintained our AAA bond rating. That puts us in the top 10% in the state of Illinois. That also is very key when it comes to managing our finances, because that allows us, when we have capital projects, to issue bonds at the absolute lowest rate possible. It allows us to borrow money at the lowest rate possible. We refied some bonds this year. It's technically called refunding bonds, but I say refi, it's easier to understand. We're refinancing some debt. We refinanced debt of our 2009 GEO bonds and saved the residents of Elmhurst $900,000. All told, in the last 5 years, because of that AAA bond rating, we've been able to refinance debt and save the residents of Elmhurst over $4.5 million in 5 short years. Our general fund, which is our checking account, is supposed to be anywhere from 1/3 to 25% of our operating budget. We're supposed to have that in our bank account. That between $12 and $16 million. I'm happy to report that as of January 1st of this year, we have about $18.7 million in our general fund. That's $500,000 up from last year. In addition, we also have a rainy day fund for $1 million, and that's fully funded as well. I can tell you, it wasn't that long ago when I first joined council in 2007, where our general fund was probably at 10% of our operating budget and going down, and our rainy day fund was at $42,000. So through a lot of hard work between the residents, staff, and elected officials, we're as strong as we've ever been. As it relates to taxes, over the last 5 years, we've had 3 tax reductions, 1 slight tax increase, and a flat tax, where this last year we didn't increase our tax levy at all. Now, for 3 years in a row, we reduced taxes $500,000 in aggregate at $1.5 million over a 3-year period. And then we raised taxes $300,000 one year, and this year we kept it flat. Now, part of the reason why we're pretty cautious when we get to our tax levy is it's kind of looking into a crystal ball. We have some pretty sizable pension obligations that we have to meet. And depending on the market, investments, sales tax, et cetera, the revenues that we get in, we have to try to find a balance and guess where we're going to be. Now, we do a pretty good job with that. That's why we've been able to reduce taxes overall over the past 5 years. The other thing that's nice to note is in the past 3 years, home values in Elmhurst have increased over 32%. And for most people, that's the largest investment that they have. Now, as it relates to taxes and development, they're kind of combined, and it's a philosophy that I have as it relates to how to generate revenue or income for the city. Now, we're AAA rated, and we're also home rule, which means that if we want to tax somebody, if we want to generate revenue, we can do it through no other authority but our own. Now, Moody's likes that. That's part of the reason why we have a AAA bond rating. But it's also because we're good at our finances and we balance our budgets. But if and when we need revenue, there's really two ways that you can do it. You can either tax the existing tax base that you have and increase taxes, or you can grow that tax base. So I think Elmhurst is a fantastic opportunity for not only residential development, but also commercial development. Elmhurst has a lot to offer, and it's important that we're a business-friendly community so that that tax base that we're talking about can actually increase. So to put that into dollars, the total development valuation investments in our town in 2018 was about $195 million. Over the past over the past 5 years, that investment in our town exceeds $700 million. So how does that relate to our tax rate or our tax levy? When we issue a tax levy, we actually don't issue a percentage, we issue a flat amount. So to give you an example, if there's 100 homes in Elmhurst and we issue a tax levy of $1,000, you do the math, each home would pay $10 in taxes. But the next year, if you've grown that tax base and now you have 120 homes, but you keep the tax levy at the same amount, which is $1,000, now those individual homeowners are only paying $8.30. So that's what we do, that's the action we've been putting into place over the past several years. Our development has increased what I'll call the market cap of Elmhurst well over $200 million in the past couple of years. So in essence, our flat tax rate this year is actually going to aggregate out into a larger tax base, and you'll actually see a reduction in taxes. Development continued in Elmhurst. We ended our TIF 1, which was in the downtown, and we replaced it with a smaller downtown TIF that's going to allow us to develop certain pockets of downtown that we still feel need attention. The York building, as most of you would remember, is as the Plass building, is completely redeveloped. It has 20,000 square feet of Class A office space and 10,000 square feet of retail. Very happy to report, and I think you all know, that the Kmart space over at St. Charles and 83 was taken over by the At Home store. Now, big box stores are very difficult to locate these days, now that you can order probably 50% of what comes into your house, either on your phone or your computer. The good news is, I think as it relates to At Home, which is At Home here in Elmhurst now, is that I don't think that buying furniture is ever going to take off on the internet, so we're pretty safe there, and we're happy that they're here in town. Elmhurst opened up its first microbrewery, the Elmhurst Brewing Company and Restaurant. We have a new Culver's coming in the Burger King at the north end of town. I see Paul Kelty in the room, proud owner of the new UPS store that went into one of the retail spaces in 255. We wish him the best. Christopher Glass came into town. Now, you might not know who Christopher Glass is, but they're over on Industrial Drive. And if you haven't, I would invite you to drive on Industrial Drive. In front of their business is a 50-foot globe that used to sit in front of Willis Tower. And one of the workers at Christopher Glass happened to be touring the Willis Tower, and the manager of Willis Tower made an offhanded comment because they wanted to get rid of it. Hey, do you want to buy a globe? He made that kind of joke to everybody, and the guy at Christopher Glass goes, yeah, I do. And he said, I'm serious. He goes, so am I. So Christopher Glass actually bought that globe. It was originally purchased for $1 million. They bought it for $1, which sounds like a great deal until you realize they had to spend $400,000 transporting it 16 miles out to Elmhurst and putting it together. But I tell you what, when they give directions, I guarantee nobody gets lost when they're looking for their business. Motorsports remodeled and added an addition, and they added a nameplate. They're now an Indian motorcycle dealer. The brand new BMW dealership that we've been talking about for a couple of years is open, and it's fantastic. We are looking forward to BMW knocking it out of the park. They have basically doubled in size, which allows them to double the amount of cars that they're allowed to sell. And sales tax is very important to the residents of Elmhurst. We have what I call an auto mall or a car mall in the north end of Elmhurst that offers a lot to outside tax dollars and outside people coming in shopping. It's important to note that for every car that's sold, the city of Elmhurst gets 1% of that sale. So if you sell a $50,000 car, we get $500. You can do the math. The more successful that BMW dealership is, the better it is for Elmhurst. The long-awaited fitness formula is open on Addison. We did a study a couple of years ago about what could redevelopment of downtown Elmhurst look like, and we were told that based on our population, based on our traffic counts, based on other factors involved, that we had enough of a town to have two main thoroughfares. So we have York Street, which is already there, and now we have Addison, which we're trying to build up. That was part of the parking deck. If you build it, they will come. So during tough times, I always call York Theater the heartbeat of Elmhurst. Willis Johnson is here. Even during tough times, Willis Johnson brings in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of unique visits to downtown Elmhurst. I've done the math, Willis. And during our redevelopment of downtown Elmhurst, the one thing that I always wanted was York Theater 2.0. So for us to keep a vibrant hometown feel, you have to have foot traffic. Well, York Road, that's accomplished with York Theater. But how can we duplicate that somewhere else? Fitness Formula Center not only is a high-end fitness center, but it brings anywhere from 800 to 1,000 unique visits a day. Imagine what that's doing for those businesses on Addison. So we encourage, we're happy to see them. EDC continue to be busy hosting 2 events, Women in Management and Commercial Real Estate for Professionals. Checking my time. Elmhurst was also featured in the Premier Community magazine as a Premier Community and Business View magazine for its commitment to planning and executing economic development growth initiatives. Speaking of growth initiatives, we took a look at our existing TIFs, and we've added some new TIF incentives for businesses that want to come into town. It's very important that we portray to the business world and anybody that wants to invest that Elmhurst is open for business and we're business friendly. So our new incentive programs include retail grants, a facade program, and a sign grant. We continued with the growth of our downtown residential density, our transit-oriented developments, including the Mark, which is the Opus development that's at the corner of Addison and First. They will be opening up in the first quarter of this year. There's also a 20-unit condo buildings at 190 North Addison, condos on the Hill at 105 Cottage Hill, an LMC apartment project, which is at the corner of 2nd and Addison, just around the corner from Starbucks. They're proposing luxury apartments of over 200 units. This is something that, in my opinion, is required to keep our downtown vibrant. Now, as we go along with this growth, we've been meeting with consultants and experts to talk about what the absorption rate is to make sure that we are not growing too fast. And the good news is the way that these developments are stacking up, even though I listed them all in about 30 seconds, they're actually staggering over the next 2 years. Experts tell us that we can actually absorb double of what's being input in town. So we're looking forward to that future growth and those future taxes. Not only does this density keep our downtown vibrant, it's also good for our other taxing bodies because they pay their fair share of taxes. But in a lot of these transit-oriented developments, and even 255, which is a couple of blocks off, you get 2 types of renters. You either get young professionals who are commuting and going downtown and have no kids, or you get retirees who are empty nesters who, either way, all these units are paying property tax to the city of Elmhurst and, importantly, to the schools of Elmhurst, but they aren't adding a burden to the schools when they do that. Our building department was busy and up with 97 new home permits. That's 4 more than last year, and total permits issued over 3,000. Now, I've talked about planning, and I will continue to talk about planning as long as I'm the mayor. We completed our sub-area plan project, which what we did is with community and stakeholder involvement, numerous meetings and experts, we've created our sub-area plans, which is we've identified 5 individual locations in town that are ripe for new or continued development. That includes the York and Villette Business District, the Lake Street Corridor, the First and York redevelopment block. That's really that first block north of the train station where the Red Dragon is, and what we call the donut hole, which is behind there, which, as most people know, has kind of been a very difficult parking situation for the longest time in Elmhurst. Now that we have 700 spots in the parking deck, we want to do something interesting with that donut hole to draw people in. We also have in the sub-area plan the North Avenue and Route 83 and the Yorkfield area south of Butterfield. Now, my mention of it doesn't even do it justice. There is a full sub-area plan online at our website that I think is around 80 pages or so. It's very interesting. It's kind of a vision of what we think can be. Now, it doesn't always happen, what we put on our plan, but what it really does is attracts developers with those like kinds of development, and it really does help smooth the process. It also prepares not only the residents who participate in that plan, but council and staff to address those types of developments when those opportunities show up. John mentioned the metro station. This is going to be a long project. The good news is that we're well on our way. We've completed our phase 1 engineering. And we've submitted that to IDOT, and we are confident that that will get approved. The next step would be phase 2. It's a significant amount of money. We've gone through an RFQ for phase 2. We'll probably be assigning our phase 2 engineering group first quarter of this year. It's going to take probably 2 years to complete that phase 2 engineering. Part of the reason for that is the amount of agencies that are involved in building or rebuilding a metro station. You've got IDOT, Union Pacific, Metra, Illinois Commerce Commission, not to mention that this is a railroad, so there's a whole layer of federal regulations that applies to it. To give you an idea what that does to the cost, the average per square foot cost of a metro station in the Chicagoland area is $700 a square foot. So you layer all of those agencies and everyone gets a say and everyone tries to make it right, you're going to pay a lot of money. We estimate the cost is going to be about $18 million. If there's good news in that large price tag is that our city staff has gone out and secured funding, outside funding that will not be paid by the residents in the amount of $16,400,000. So we can. In essence, the residents of Elmhurst, if we built that train station today, would pay $1.6 million for an $18 million facility. But that's not all. I have asked staff to go out and find more money because I know it's out there. I'll keep you updated for next year. I do believe it's important, though, that we do rebuild our metro station. We're the busiest line on that Chicago Northwestern. Well over 1 million people a year go through Elmhurst, and the current train station, while serviceable, kind of has that Russian industrial feel. And I don't think really highlights Elmhurst as good as it could. So we're looking forward to redeveloping that. It's going to be a long process, but we're well on our way. Public Works Department, I think most of you know what they do. In fact, the list of what they do to keep Elmhurst running is so long, I'm not even going to get into all of it. But I do want to talk about water management. It's one of the things that the Public Works Department does. It may not be exciting, but it kind of is if you look into it. So recently, and surprisingly, the Public Works Department over an 8-month period installed 15,000 new water meters in home. 15,000 water meters in 8 months, and we just had a presentation at City Council last night. 15,000 water meters coming into your house. They had 79 complaints. That's pretty good, but that's not the best. These are smart water meters. They're interactive. Here's the best part about this. These water meters come with our Water Smart software, okay? So if you're a resident of Elmhurst, you can go online or you can talk to our Public Works Department and you can sign up and monitor your water usage. Now, it might not sound like a big deal, but you can find out if you're average. You can find out if you're higher than average. You can also find out in real time if you have a leak. There's an example of a resident in town who was using 5 times as much water for months and had no idea. They just thought that's what their water bill was. And once they did a leak analysis in their house, they were able to reduce their water intake by over 80%. Or I'm sorry, by 4 times as much, reduced it down to 200 gallons instead of 800 gallons. And that's just one example. Not only that, these smart meters are so good. I was on a business trip last week, January 3rd, and I get a notice that my home is using 5 times the amount of water that it normally does. I literally called from the hotel where I was, talked to my family, and one of them had to go jiggle one of the toilets in my house. Unbelievable. As elected officials will tell you, once a quarter I get a call from a neighbor or a friend. Mayor, you're not going to believe it. We went on vacation. I don't know what happened. I left the hose on. We had a toilet that was running. I have a $1,200 water bill. What can I do? I'm telling you now, this is free for the residents of Elmhurst. Only 16% of the people in town have signed up for it. Please go sign up for it. Monitor your water use. It's not only better for you and it'll save you money. If Elmhurst isn't expending that additional water, it's less taxing on our system. Please use it. It's fantastic. The other thing that we've done in our delivery system for water is we've instituted a zone scan leak detection system. I know, sounds exciting, doesn't it? A zone scan leak detection system. We buy water from Chicago, and we give it out to our residents. Chicago doesn't care if we know where that water is going or if we lose that water. We write them a check no matter what. Well, this zone scan leak detection system, there's literally hundreds of miles of pipe taking the water from Chicago and delivering it to Elmhurst businesses and homes. Normally, when there's a leak in that system, and any part of that system is anywhere from 0 to 80 years old. Normally, when there's a leak in that system, we have to wait till it literally bubbles up out of the ground and we can say, hey, there's a leak. Those leaks can last weeks, months, or even years. With this zone detection system, it's got 610 monitors throughout Elmhurst. We can identify within 3 feet of our delivery system where there's a potential leak. We've already detected numerous leaks. In fact, we found a leak under 83 that we never would have found. So this is exciting stuff that the Public Works Department is doing on behalf of the residents of Elmhurst, and ultimately, with this new technology, we're saving the residents of Elmhurst money. We've instituted a new fire hydrant painting program where we're sandblasting and repainting all of our fire hydrants. We have about 2,200 fire hydrants in town, but what you're going to notice, there's about 400 done now, and they'll be done over the next couple of years. What you're going to notice is there's different colored caps on the fire hydrants. It's just something simple like that. Not all fire hydrants are created equal. Certain fire hydrants can pump out more water than others. And instead of our fire department guessing or calling when they're showing up to a situation, they can just immediately identify the fire hydrant they're showing up to, and by the color of the cap, they know how much water they can get out of that fire hydrant. Stormwater continues to be a priority in Elmhurst, as it has been for my entire elected career as mayor. We have worked on 2 additional stormwater projects this year, bringing our total stormwater projects up to 11. We have a stormwater project behind the Timothy Christian Church on Van Buren, and also a stormwater project behind the Messiah Lutheran next to Timothy Christian, just south of Butterfield. These 2 projects, when completed, will add more than 25 acre-feet of relief to our already expanding system. The Timothy Christian, I'm sorry, the Christ United, oh, I messed that one up. So we have one project behind Christ United, which is next to Jackson School. The other project is behind Messiah Lutheran. So the project that's behind Christ United is already online. The project that is next to Messiah Lutheran will be online first quarter of this year. That brings the total of acre-feet relief that we're offering to the residents of Elmhurst during a storm up to 112 acre-feet, or another way to put that is 36.4 million gallons that 5 years ago had no place to go except people's homes are now being handled by the system that we developed. It's a lot of hard work, but I think it's important. The other issue as it relates to water in our Public Works Department is I&I. So I've already told you about the system that delivers water to your home. We have 2 systems that take bad water away from your home. We have a stormwater and a sewage system that takes water away from your home, and probably the biggest bane of the existence of those gravity-fed systems are inflow and infiltration. So again, you have these hundreds of miles of pipe, anywhere from 80 years old to, a year old, but those develop leaks. And what happens during a rainstorm is that water goes into the ground and then goes into those systems. And I used to have that when I grew up in Brenhaven. If we had a rough rain, we would actually have sewer water come back up into our house. And that's not because everybody decided to flush their toilets and take a shower. It's because rain from the storm is getting into our system. So we were doing a lot of things to keep that rain out of our system. Slip lining, which is basically putting a brand new plastic molded pipe inside of old pipes. We've eliminated cross connections between our stormwater and our sewage systems. And we've gone around and we've identified over 300 homes in Elmhurst that inadvertently have sump pumps connected to the wrong system. What that means, in a simple one-year event, so an event that happens, your average rainstorm that happens every year, we're keeping over 500,000 gallons out of that system. Might not seem like a lot, but that's one event. Imagine the person who has that storm water or that sewer water coming up into their basement. In a 5-year event, we're keeping over 1 million gallons out of the system. In addition, we've also done storm line cleaning. We have 110 miles of storm sewers. We've taken 3 years, but we'll finish this year cleaning those systems, and we've removed over 400 cubic yards of debris, allowing those systems to operate more efficiency. That's 20 truckloads, semi-truckloads of garbage and debris that were in those systems. How am I doing on time, John? You're fine. Great. All right. Happy to announce that our police department was awarded a Tier 1 ILEAP accreditation. ILEAP is the Illinois Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. It's basically a council of peers that comes into your department and reviews your policies and procedures and see how you stack up. Our police department has achieved the highest level that they can in that, one of only 29 police departments in the state of Illinois to achieve that distinction. We also continued our award-winning roll call, our neighborhood roll call, which during the summer, during our shift change, we go out into the neighborhood, we communicate to residents, and when the shift changes over at the police department in the afternoon, residents come out, they get to not only hear about what's new in the police department, but they also get to meet the police officers. We had an increase over last year of about 10%, and overall in the last 4 years, that award-winning program has resulted in 4,000 residents meeting our police department on a one-to-one basis. Narcan continues to be a tool that our police officers use. If you don't know what Narcan is, that's a drug that during a heroin overdose, a police officer can administer and immediately arrest that overdose and save a life. We had 5 lives this year, so it's not just 5 saves. We actually saved 5 lives, people who wouldn't be here if our police department didn't have those tools. In addition, on July 31st of this year, Governor Rauner signed an amendment to the Annie Laguerre Act. So many of you may know about the Annie Laguerre Act. It was really pushed by the Annie Laguerre Foundation and a bunch of supporters in Elmhurst, and it basically was whether or not law enforcement officials were able to carry EpiPens. I'm happy to say that 17 days after Governor Rauner signed that amendment, Elmhurst Police Department became the first municipal police department in the state of Illinois to equip its trained officers with EpiPens. So I'm very happy that couldn't have happened. That couldn't have happened without local support of physicians, the health department, certainly the Annie Laguerre Foundation, and the Elmhurst Police Department. Our drug collection program collected over 1,000 pounds of old and outdated prescription drugs, utilizing our drug take-backs drop box that's at our police station, and also 2 individual events held. That keeps these drugs away from potential abusers, overdosing, and also keeps it out of our system. Instead of flushing your prescription drugs down the toilet where it could add toxicity to our system, I would ask that you utilize our free drug drop-off. And then the last thing I'll say about the police department is we have a license plate reader system in town. It was introduced to us about 3 years ago, and we use it on a trial basis. And I was a little trepidatious at first. I was a little leery of Big Brother. But when you dig into the reports, you realize in the Chicagoland area, if you drive around the Chicagoland area for 20 minutes, anywhere, you've been photographed, you and your car have been photographed a minimum of 5 times. So it's important, in my opinion, that we take advantage of the technologies that are available to help stop crime. So what do these license plate readers do? They read license plates and catch car makes and colors when they come into town. And if somebody has, let's say they have a break-in, and it starts with hard work with the police department. So we have a break-in, police department goes around and starts canvassing the neighborhood. And Mrs. Smith notices, well, at 3 o'clock there was a red 4-door car in that driveway, my neighbors, and they don't have a red 4-door car. Well, what time was that? Okay, that was at 3 o'clock. So we go to our license plate database and we plug in 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And we can do a scan of all red 4-door sedans that were in town. And we narrow it down to 6 cars that were in town during that time. And then we actually can get the license plate, and with the state of Illinois, we can look and see who it is. And I can tell you this, in the last year alone, we used that system in 26 criminal investigations, resulting in 19 felony arrests, including 9 burglary offenders, 2 motor vehicle thefts, 2 felony theft offenders, and 2 ID theft offenders. And that's just in 1 year. And Chief Ruth guarantees me that certain number of those crimes would never have been solved without that system. So I think it's important that we embrace that system and we let everybody know who's coming into town that we have that ability. So I appreciate the police department and what they've done in 2018. The fire department had another busy year with over 6,000 calls for service. They received the 2018 Mission Lifeline EMS Gold Recognition Award from the Elmhurst Heart Association. They also, too, received an accreditation. They received a bump in their ISO class from Class 2 to Class 1. Basically what that is a grading of overall of the city's fire suppression system. So what's our ability to fight fire when we have it? It includes the water system, includes our building codes, and it also includes the fire department and preparedness. And we have achieved ISO rating number 1. And it's not just a number. ISO rating number 1, ISO is actually an insurance group that evaluates your ability to snuff out fires. It's also what insurance companies use when they evaluate your individual house to issue you insurance for fire insurance. So an ISO rating will result in a lower insurance rate for your home than an ISO rating of 2. So very happy the fire department has achieved that. They also introduced their new Pierce fire engine to its fleet, replacing Squad 1 and Engine 3. The DuPage Cycling Club actually donated an EMS bike to the fire department. It's like a mini ambulance that's used for such things as St. Patrick's Day Parade, Elmhurst Cycling Classic, and Turkey Trot. Firefighters and paramedics also received 2 runs of the month for March and September, and the fire department, with the help of Kurt Sheely, purchased 12 automatic external defibrillators. The fire department has also implemented a dive rescue team that is trained in swift ice and dive rescue incidents. Goals for the future are to continue to work with staff and elected officials to review safety issues to ensure that any concerns are addressed. How am I doing?
You're right there.
I'm right there. I'm going to wrap it up in 4 minutes then. We adopted our sustainability plan in Elmhurst, which basically helps staff and elected officials think about sustainability when they're making certain decisions. For example, replacing 224 mercury vapor lights that use 5 times as much electricity as the LED lights that they were replaced with, saving over 50,000 watts annually. And although they're a little more expensive, they last 10 times longer, so ultimately resulting in savings. We also are offering curbside composting starting this month and have recycling events that include electronics, pumpkins, cooking oil, prescription drugs, and smoke detectors. Our communications department published an Explore Visitors Welcome Guide to Elmhurst, and it received a 3 CMA Circle Service Award for printed publications. Our Elmhurst Trolley was a success again, with over 16,000 riders, not only in the summer, but we expanded it over the holidays. We call it our Holly Trolley to promote the holiday spirit. And we also promoted we also started a public arts commission. Several members are here that is charged with the thoughtful placement of public art, including categorizing and planning for future public art in the city of Elmhurst. The Elmhurst History Museum had an unbelievable year where their attendance increased over 62% in the past year. Some of that was due to the Snoopy exhibit. The Snoopy and the Red Baron exhibit alone accounted for 6,500 visitors coming into Elmhurst. One of the last year's goals of the museum was to hire a new curator of exhibits, and Dan Bartlett. Is Dan here? I thought Dan was going to be here. We did hire a new curator of exhibits, and that's Dan Bartlett. We continue with a variety of public programs, including tours, field trips, and full immersion experiences such as the Churchville One-Room Schoolhouse and the 19th century baseball rules baseball game that is so realistic, old people go there and they get hurt. We had a highly successful craft beer fest, our third annual, with over 600 attendees, and we with the foundation, raised over $35,000 to help underwrite museum programs and exhibits. The Elmhurst History Museum will be highlighting 5 exhibits in the coming year, including Worlds of Wonder, a celebration of Chicagoland amusement parks, and you know Kitty Kingdom is going to be on there. They're also reprising the hugely successful Quarry Tour that sold out in 4 hours last time they offered it, and are also offering a dramatic recreation of the Lincoln-Douglas debate. And if it doesn't sound exciting, I encourage you to talk to Dave Oberg. He can get you excited about anything. Our library, again, was awarded the 5-star designation from the Library Journal for the 2nd year in a row. Only one of 85 libraries in the United States and only one of 3 in the state of Illinois to earn that achievement. They completed renovation of the kids department, initiated a social work intern program, and launched the Common Connection quarterly program series. Elmhurst Hospital, some representatives are here today, opened a new 2-story, 29,000 square foot health center in downtown Elmhurst. They also won awards for being in the top 20 of most beautiful hospitals, earned an A grade from Leapfrog for hospital safety for both the fall and spring. They were named the top general hospital at Leapfrog Group and was awarded the gold certification for excellence in person-centered care. The Elmhurst Park District, I mentioned last year, was thinking about a dog park. They are no longer thinking about it. They purchased land and actually have, believe it or not, a dog park master plan. Vince Spaeth and Jim are here if you want details on that. Elmhurst 205 was successful, as John mentioned, in their passage of their referendum, a $168 million referendum that will rebuild 2 new schools and have improvements at all 13 campuses. Tuck Everlasting was named Best Music Production in the state of Illinois, and the York Dance Team also won 1st place. York seniors earned over $1.8 million in scholarships, with 98% of seniors going on to committed to 4-year colleges, 2-year colleges, or technical schools or the military. Elmhurst College had the largest freshman class for the 2nd year in a row. They completed their Elmhurst 2021 strategic plan, which includes a campus master plan. I'm looking forward to seeing the details on that. And last but not least, the Elmhurst Center of Performing Arts. Is Jeff Budgell in the room?
Yes, he is.
Jeff Budgell. It's my understanding that as of yesterday, the Elmhurst Center for Performing Arts actually has a contract on a piece of property to help them move forward on their vision that they have been working on for how many years, Jeff? 4 years. As of yesterday, they have a contract on a property. I can't mention what the property is, but Jeff is here to deflect all of your questions. Finally, John, and I apologize for the length of the speech. In conclusion, as I said last year, I'm just the one who gets to deliver the good news. I'm certainly not the cause of all of it. I'm just a small part in helping Elmhurst. I want to thank my fellow elected officials for all of their support and hard work. I want to thank the residents of Elmhurst. It is truly humbling to represent my hometown as mayor. And finally, certainly last but not least, my wife and family for their love, support, and patience as I do this job on behalf of Elmhurst. God bless Elmhurst, and God bless the United States of America.
And Mayor Morley, a nice round of applause. Right here for some Q&A. We have time for a couple of questions. So if anybody out there has a question, I'll get the mayor started if nobody has one. So the new budget was passed.
Yes.
And as you said, no increase in the property tax rate. Property taxes will generate about $10.7 million according to that budget. Retail sales taxes will generate anywhere from $13 to $15 million, and that helps keep property tax rates low. Can you speak to the importance of shopping local and buying local?
Certainly, it's something like, I want to say, 86 cents of every dollar that's spent locally stays locally. Sales tax is certainly a huge part of what Elmhurst is revenue. Government doesn't create anything. It fosters growth, but it really doesn't create anything. So it's so important that we have a good relationship with our local businesses because it's a symbiotic relationship. If they do well, we do well. We have a very pro-business staff. We have a very pro-business council, and that really results in not only controlled and smart development. We actually get to pick and choose. We're so popular with developers that we get to pick and choose, but as it relates to sales tax, we're becoming a destination, whether it's for restaurants or cars or other locations. It is so important. It's like throwing out a net. As many people as we can, whether it's Elmhurst residents or people even better going through town spending their money in Elmhurst, those tax dollars ultimately result in our ability to generate revenue, keep property taxes low, and provide the services that residents of Elmhurst deserve.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Then give the mayor a nice round of applause again.
Once again, thank you all for being here. The state of our city is very, very strong. Civic engagement in Elmhurst continues to be vibrant, and that's important for all of our futures. Have a great morning. See you.
Have you checked out Elmhurst Public Library lately? Prepare to be amazed. The new Makery, located in the library's renovated basement, provides a hands-on creative space for patrons to invent, collaborate, and design as they transform their ideas into reality. From laser cutters to embroidery machines, the Makery has something sure to pique everyone's interest. This open, flexible work area creates an environment to create, connect, and explore. EPL cardholders, District 205 teachers and students, Elmhurst College students, work perks, and business cardholders are welcome to use the space. For more information, go to elmlib.org/makery. Let's make things happen.